Okay, we're on 4.7. So now we're going to do several operations with variables, or operations with polynomials and several variables. So don't forget, we've already done this, enough coverage on it. You just have to stop and think about what it's asking. So for the first example, it says to evaluate. That means we're going to substitute in. So we're going to substitute in the values for x and y. So we have 5 plus 4 times a negative 3 plus a negative 3 times a 4 squared plus 9 times a negative 3 cubed plus 4 squared. So we're going to clean up. So we get 5 plus 4 times a negative 3 plus negative 3 times 16 plus 9 times a negative, let's see, 3 times 3 is 9 times 3, so it's a negative 27 times 16. So now we're going to clean up again. We get 5 plus a negative 12 plus a negative 48 plus a negative 3,888. So our final answer is negative 3943. Now, could you have just left these as negatives because the numbers after them were negative? Yes, you could. It was just easier. As I was writing, I saw the plus and I substituted those in parentheses. Alright, a word problem. The surface area of a right circular cylinder, is given by the polynomial 2 pi rh plus 2 pi rh squared, where h is the height, r is the radius of the base. A barn silo has a height of 50 feet and a radius of 50. Basically, we're just going to plug in for what we have and see what we can get. And it told us to use, or it may not have told us, but for what we use for pi, you're going to use 3.14 for pi. So we're just going to plug everything back in. So we have 2 times 3.14 times 9 plus, whoops, I dropped one. Dropped the 50, didn't I? Because I had to get our height. Plus 50, or times 50, plus 2 times 3.14 times radius, that's your r. So that's going to be 9, and then it's got to be squared. So we're going to clean up some. So I'll leave the first one, because remember, you have to clear your exponents first. So 9 squared is 81. So now we can just multiply all these together, and you can put these in your calculator. So I get 2,826 feet plus 508 and 68 tenths or hundredths of a feet. You add those together, so you're going to get 3,334 and 68 hundredths feet square is your final answer. I put in an extra slide in case we need it. We don't. Alright. Now, this one says to recall that the degree of a monomial is the number of variables in the factors. So these go back when we start looking at the things and breaking it down. It says identify the coefficient and the degree of each term. Using this chart, I think it works. And then it's wanting you to identify the degree of the polynomial. Remember, you do each term, and then it's the highest degree of the individual terms, and that it told us what the degree of that polynomial was. So like terms, like or similar terms either have exactly the same variables with exactly the same exponents or are constants. For example, 9w to the 5th, y to the 4th, and 15w to the 5th and y to the 4th are like terms. These are identical variables. Okay, don't worry about the coefficient numbers right now. Don't worry about that. We're just looking at the variables. Now these are constants, so we can always put them together. Are these twins? X to the second is not the same as x to the first, and y to the first is not the same as y to the third. So these are not like terms. So this one says to collect like terms. So we're going to work the first one. So the like terms here is this one and this one. So 10 minus 6 is going to give us 4x squared y to the fourth. And then 4 minus 2 is going to give us 2x y to the third. And then we're going to gather this one. Be careful of your S's and your T's because they get kind of ugly looking. So I want you to be very careful on this one. And I have a tendency to put them in descending order first sometimes, but let's just start with the first one. I have 8 and 10, so that gives me 18st. And then these two are alike, so it gives me a negative 2st. And then this one and this one is alike, so 7 minus 12 gives me a negative 5s to the third. And then we have this t that's kind of hanging out by itself, and then the negative 2. You can leave it in that order if you like. You can put it in descending order. To put it in descending order, you would look at the ABCs first, so you have S's and T's. So you'd base everything based on the S's as far as what order it went into, and then the T's. But this is perfectly fine. You don't have to put these in ascending or descending order. Okay, let's look at this one. Notice what operation we have here. We have addition. So basically we can just drop these parentheses and gather like terms. So that's all I'm going to do is drop the parentheses and gather like terms. I have a negative 6x cubed and a positive x cubed, so that's going to give me a 1x cubed. I have a 4y, and I don't have another 4y, so I'm just going to bring it down. I have a negative 6y squared, and I have a positive 8y squared, so that's giving me a plus 2y squared. And then I did not have an x to the second, so I'm just simply going to bring that down. And that's your final answer. Alright, we have the subtraction sign, so you have to be real careful when you rewrite these, because you're going to have to rewrite these. And let's hope I can get everything in here space-wise. Tell you what, let's do it a little bit simpler because of space. So don't freak out about what I'm fixing to do. We're fixing to just drop the parentheses on the first one. So these are gone here and here. And then we're going to change the sign of everything here. So this becomes negative, this is positive, this is negative, and this is positive. So I have a 5x squared y, and I have a negative 5x squared y. Those canceled out. So now I have a positive 2x to the third y squared and a positive 7x to the third y squared. So that gives me 9x to the third y squared. And then I have a positive 4x squared and y to the third, and I don't have another one of those. So I get a positive 4x squared y to the third. And then I have a negative x squared y squared right here. And then I have a 7y and a 6y. That gives me 13y. And you're finished. Now this one says to multiply, so we're going to multiply, but we just got to be very careful how we do it. Just take your time. So I'm going to multiply these together. So I get 4x to the third y squared. And then I'm going to multiply these together. So I get 12x squared y squared. Then I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to get a negative 3x squared y squared. And I'm going to do it again, so I'm going to get a negative 9x y squared. I'm going to start here, give myself a little bit of room. So I'm going to get 4x y squared. I'm not lining these up, I'm just giving myself some room. Actually, they lined up pretty good, didn't they? And then a 4y times 3y is going to be a plus 12y squared. So now when we gather like terms, we're going to write these together. I have 4x to the third y to the second. I have a 12x squared minus a 3x squared, and both have a y squared. I dropped that when I was talking to you. So that's going to give me a positive 9x squared y squared. I accidentally lined these up, but it works. So it's going to give me a negative 5x y squared, and then the positive 12y squared. Alright, special products that we did in the previous chapter is going to help you speed up your work. So we're going to talk about foiling these. So FOIL, so I get a 2x squared minus a 3xy plus a 12xy minus an 18y squared. I can gather like terms, so I'm going to get a 2x squared plus a 9xy minus 18y squared. And you're finished. Now if you remember the rules on how to do this one, we're going to square the first term, so we get 25x squared. Multiply those together, so that's 35xy. Then you're going to double that, so it's going to be 70xy. And then you're going to square the last term, 7y becomes 49y squared. Now we're going to do the next one. When you're doubling or squaring 8 to the 4th, it's going to be, a to the 4th, it's going to become a to the 8th. Then you're going to multiply those together. So you get a to the 4th times negative 5a to the 2nd, b to the 2nd. So that's going to give you 5a to the 6th, b to the 2nd. You're going to double that, so that gives you 10. So you get 10, a to the 6th, b to the 2nd, and then you're going to square the last one, which is simply 25, a to the 4th, b to the 4th. So all that's your same answer. Just didn't give myself enough room. These have the same problem, except one's addition and one's subtraction. So we're just going to square the first terms and square the last terms and put a negative sign in there. So 7a squared b becomes 49a to the 4th b squared, and then 3b becomes 9b squared. Okay, last one. Again, see if you notice any patterns on here, what you could do. You could rewrite some things to get things in the right order that would help you square or multiply, because when you first look at this, they look like they're the same. But if you rewrite them and put the 7t first, minus 3x cubed y squared times the 7t plus 3x cubed y squared. Does that make it a little easier? It does. So when we square the first term, we get 49t squared. When we square the second term, we get 9x to the 6th, y to the 4th, and we just put a negative sign in the middle. Okay, on this one, you could do a couple things. What do you notice about this right here? Those are the same. So you could say 3x plus 1 squared minus the 4y squared. If it was me, I would just do it the long way. That just works for me, but that's up to you. So we get 9x squared plus 6x plus 1 minus 16y squared, and you're done. And that's the end of this chapter. So 4.7 we're finished, so we have one more section to go, and we'll be done with chapter 4.